2, 1, and we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new panel hosted by the Blockchain Game Alliance. Really happy this Friday to have you live with us and with the great panelists and host. Today, we are going to talk about NFTs Teleport, a game changer for the digital asset economy. This is the first panel of a series where we'll have speakers coming from different blockchain, from different games and project member of the BGA. So before we jump to the panel itself, I'd like to introduce you the Blockchain Game Alliance for those of you who are not yet familiar. So let's do that quickly. We're a nonprofit organization committed to promoting blockchain within the game industry, highlighting the potential of this new technology through NFTs, through decentralized gaming, through DAOs, etc., to enable new ways to create games, publish game, monetize game, engage with communities, and more. We're a strong advocate for diversity and more inclusivity of women in the industry, and we provide an open forum for individuals and companies to share knowledge, collaborate, create common standards, network together, generate business, create awareness and users about their product, and many more things as well. So those are our core activities all around networking, research and reporting, representing blockchain game company, as well as advocating for blockchain within the industry. I'd like to give a big thanks to our sponsors, the Coin Tribune, One Way Blog, Ubisoft, Animoca Brands, Arc.io, Galaxy Interactive, Maker, Algorand, Chromia, Matic, AMD, and Mobox for their extra support to the Blockchain Game Alliance. And say that we're really proud to have now over 169 members as part of the BGA coming from various sides of the industry, blockchain games, chain protocol, press and media, games, developer solution, esport, investor, and many other categories of companies, which all together share one common goal and collaborate for that. We've been hosting all sorts of events, interviews with industry leaders and video game executives, workshops, many panels, new member presentation once a month, demo days. We've been giving free tickets to various conferences and free speaking opportunities to our members, and we'll continue to drive awareness and adoption through those activities. And we're always happy to welcome any new ideas from the community as well. You can follow us on Twitter, Medium, and Telegram and Discord, and find more information on the Blockchain Game Alliance website. And without further ado, let's jump into today's panel. So we're inaugurating a new format this year, since we are going to have one host who is a member of the BGA. Today we have Team Dierckxsens from Arkane Network and 3 panelists coming from the industry as well. So Samsul Karim from Binance Chain, Brandon Smith from Bondly, and Sandeep from Matic. And without further ado, let's welcome them, give them a big round of applause, and have Team introduce today's speakers and drive the conversation on the topic.
All right. Thanks, Sebastian, for the introduction. I think the first speaker today is Samsul Karim. So, Samsul, please tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you're doing with BSC, and what you're going to be talking about in the presentation for now.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks, Seb, for the introduction. So my name's Samsul, or my friends and colleagues call me Sami. So I work on business development as well as ecosystem development for Binance Smart Chain and Binance Chain. So that involves developing strategic use cases as well as investing and incubating projects in the Binance Chain and Binance Smart Chain community. Prior to Binance, so just a bit of history. So prior to Binance, I was working at Consensus for a few years, supporting their strategic sales group, as well as in project delivery roles, working on use cases in sports and entertainment, healthcare, capital markets, real estate tokenization, and various others. So maybe I just give a short intro or like some updates on Binance Smart Chain and the ecosystem and some of the interesting things we're seeing, especially in the gaming and NFT space there. So I'd say probably firstly, like obviously Binance is a huge supporter of developing gaming and blockchain. several really big events around that. So the first one was our launchpad event with Sandbox, and then more recently with Axie Infinity. So these are kind of really good signals around the Binance view about how we see blockchain and gaming, or gaming really driving a mass adoption for blockchain and crypto. With Binance Smart Chain, I think we have now today a really good infrastructure. So it's 100% EVM compatible blockchain. So it's really easy for developers in the Ethereum blockchain ecosystem to be able to build on there. And then, of course, we're building out and supporting project teams to provide great tooling to make it easier and the developer experience really great, as well as bridges with on and off ramps and various other, I think, kind of key components that help drive adoption for game developers. Yeah, so that's a short summary of where we are.
All right, that's very interesting. Brandon Smith, CEO of Bondly. You're more on the gaming side, I just heard. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your project at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm Brendan Smith. I'm CEO of Bondly. So Bondly really, to us, represents the next generation of e-commerce. So we built a platform specifically geared around digital assets, which includes NFT. It's fully functioning in a cross-chain and a cross-currency, completely flexible and designed to be similar to Stripe and PayPal in terms of ease of access. So why we're really excited about being part of the Gaming Alliance is that not only are we going to support many NFT games with our platform and hopefully allow many more people to come into crypto via these channels, we also have our own game called the Bondly Collectible Card Game, which functions also as our governance token for the platform. And I'm glad to be joined by Sammy and Sandeep here, because we actually have cards from this game that are on BSC and soon on Matic. So I'm excited to talk to you more about both our game and then the other games that we'll be working with.
It'll be an interesting panel discussion after the introductions done. Last but not least, we have Sandeep Nailwal. He's the co-founder and COO of Matic. Sandeep, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Sandeep, one of the co-founders at Matic, and I take care of the business development, marketing, and like all of the things except the tech, which is taken care by my co-founders, other two co-founders, and I also come from a technology background, so I have a decent visibility on the technology front, and I help a lot of teams in terms of structuring their architecture and all that. So yeah, specific to gaming and NFT, it's like everyone, we all know that after years and years of struggle by the industry, the industry is now going sort of in that exponential growth phase. So it's very heartwarming to see. Like I've been meeting so many of us, from the BGA, from Arkane team, and everyone, all around the world last year, not last year, but last year. And then, everyone was building in the building mode, and, the funding was not that great in the industry and all that. But now, I think the things are changing, and it's a very good sign, and, very good news for the, people who have been, working in the industry, the developers specifically. So with Matic Network, just like BSC, so Matic is also a EVM compatible chain, and it's a layer 2 on top of Ethereum. So we because the most of the liquidity is on Ethereum, so being a layer 2 helps projects to kind of remain close to the Ethereum ecosystem, and while still be able to get scalability on top of Ethereum. So that has been our goal, and we kind of want to provide more solutions to the developers on that front. So very soon there will be multiple different flavors of the solutions for the projects which will be coming. And yeah, like as Brendan was mentioning, that cross chain is becoming like a very big thing. So like many projects we speak to are deploying on multiple chains like Binance chain, and Matic, Ethereum, and Polkadot is also coming up. So I think the future, or like the near future, is going to be like a cross chain future. And yeah, like I think very excited for how it overall helps the end users. That's the ultimate goal. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it's super interesting here because we at Arkane, we have goal partnerships with both Binance Smart Chain and with Sandeep at Matic. And we're interacting with each other always on like a daily and a weekly basis, trying to improve the different services and systems. And the title of here, the panel discussion, I think we're already like steamrolling into that panel discussion. So let's get started on that one. NFT teleport. What is so exciting about bridging? Why is that so important? What's the value of being able to bridge from one chain to another for a single NFT? Who wants to kick it off?
I can start maybe. So yeah, I mean, I think that currently the biggest benefit is the is the gas fees, like, because currently, like, primarily all the industry, be it DeFi, be it NFT, like like we have to give the credit to the Ethereum ecosystem, and like where it all originated. And there we all know that Ethereum is kind of, because of the large money involved in DeFi, the gas fees are too high. So for NFT and gaming kind of use cases, it becomes very difficult to deal with those kind of gas fees. So definitely, like the projects which are looking to target the mass market users, they need to have that the gas fees, lower gas fees, and then things like that. But apart from that, like now the good thing about the, like, in having multiple chains is that every chain, like for example, I keep hearing about Sammy from many teams, like where like he's pushing the envelope on the Binance chain side, and similarly Polkadot team is doing a lot of great work on multiple fronts, and there are a lot of projects deploying there, and then like there are like it's like that. So I think now like all of these teams, different teams, and the pie is like very very big, right? Like we have not even seen 1% of the developers from the overall space come into the ecosystem. So it's good that all of the teams are like pushing hard to to push the envelope and bring more and more developers and users into the ecosystem. And once the users come, then all of these chains will become sort of islands, right? So it's very important for these chains to have interoperability features, where let's say you are playing one game on BSC and you want to trade those assets into, let's say, a marketplace which is available on Matic, you would want to do that. So that's why like teleport will become very very important, specifically in the next, I think 12 to 24 months. We are going to see a very hyper blockchainization and multiple chains emerging. I think interoperability solutions will be very important in that. Yeah.
Well, sometimes I see things too simple, and I would sometimes also say, why would it need to be interoperable? Why do you need to bridge? While you can also clone smart contracts, and where you can verify, and you can be working on different chains separately, but within the same game ecosystem. So that's still something where I'm struggling with. I'm sure a lot of people are still struggling on too. Why is bridge functionality then so important? If you could take that route.
Yeah, I can maybe comment on here. So I think I really think that the Web3, or like a lot of the promises of Web3, is going to be enabled by an internet of blockchains, right? So it's, of course, Ethereum is the, let's say, maximally decentralized, and it will probably be the home for the most high value assets. But maybe it doesn't require all assets to live there, and it doesn't make sense probably for all assets to live there, because just the cost of transactions and various other aspects. I mean, there's different communities that are more attracted to different ecosystems and blockchains, maybe because that's where they find more useful services for their specific needs, or for whatever reasons, really. So I think in this narrative of the internet of blockchains, I think interoperability is a key thing there, but it's not trivial. It's super difficult. And I think NFTs are really paving the way there. And I think that's a number of reasons for that. I think NFTs are probably a little bit easier to start developing some of the bridges because it has, you don't face a number of challenges like with ERC20 assets, for example, or like let's say the fungible assets. And I'll give you some examples of why. Right, so like in blockchains that are currently emerging, like Matic, Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, for example, where we're going to see assets that were, let's say, initially housed on Ethereum and then finding second and third homes on other blockchains. You'll have scenarios where there's community teams that are developing bridges in different architectures. Right, so some will be more centralized. So we run the Binance Bridge, for example, which has a centralized architecture. It uses a lot of the Binance.com infrastructure. So it's using, for example, using the Binance hot wallets on both sides of the transaction. And we support a large number of assets there, like USDT and various others, right? So like, and as other community teams build out bridges that are more decentralized or have different designs, you start facing a number of issues where what you want to avoid is having, let's say, for example, 2 USDTs on a particular chain, right? Mm-hmm. Because it really depends on how these bridges are architected. And at the moment, there isn't really good standardization yet. And I'm not sure if really standardization will even solve these kind of challenges. So NFTs don't have that challenge because they're unique. So I think a lot of the innovation that's going to come around through experimentation of how NFT bridges are being developed right now will be useful in several other areas, and will help a lot with enabling better interconnectivity and interoperability between different blockchains. And I think users will have a lot of benefits there as well, right? Like it's really, I think from a Binance perspective, it's really about freedom of choice. And this is like a kind of a core value that Binance started with, which is about freedom of money as well as freedom of choice for users. So it's being able to enable this kind of freedom of movement of assets, which of course there's going to be a number of really difficult problems to solve along the way, but also that's kind of part of the fun, right? Like these difficult problems, we have great teams working on them.
Yeah. Well, comes to mind other question that I have, but this is really for Brandon.
Yeah.
For you,
on the prior point, I just wanted to add one more thing. I think they covered it very well. The only other thing that we have to think about too is the fact that NFT standards on each chain will actually be changing, right? So they'll be evolving, they'll be adding more data, and they will be differentiated between chains. So it's not so simple to just republish a contract. So with that case, it's really, portability is super important with bridges. So that will allow us to basically take a version, you could say it's almost a synthetic version of that NFT on various chains as sort of an IOU or as a reference to the metadata that's really on the main chain. So you get to maintain really what it is the NFT as an identity. And you get to maintain that within whatever context there is, within whatever application you're using. It always just references back to the source chain where that was actually minted. So I think when we talk to big gaming companies that are outside of crypto right now, this is a main concern for them because they're looking for ways to extend their current gaming exposure, but they don't want to play blockchain wars, right? So this is why it's really critical.
Well, that was actually part of the question that I had for you. You started with BSC, you're making it compatible now with Matic, so you're essentially doing a bridge. What's the process like for developers to do it?
Yeah, so for us, we started with cross-chain compatibility in mind for every application that we're doing. For right now, we are doing things like minting separate NFT contracts on each of the chains, but our product that's coming out later this year, our e-commerce marketplace, is designed 100% to be cross-chain compatible. So this starts to blur the lines between that sort of difference. And then what that allows people to do is the developers themselves who are making this great content and these great games, they can just go with what the environment they're the most comfortable in but then they can use products like Bondly to do the buying and selling super easily without the end users having to worry about that.
Yeah. I also want to add on this, like I think Tim, your primary, this thing is that why do we even need like these multi-chain existence and all that? Maybe everything can exist in one chain, and like or why do we need like like this cross-chain bridging and things like that? So like from my perspective, I think like all of these like good infrastructure teams are now helping various developers to kind of build their products, build their content and all that. And definitely it's like if we see individually on a individual blockchain level, it might look like it's kind of distribution of efforts and all that. But if you look at the Web3 space as a whole, all of us are together like pushing the boundaries and making the pie bigger. And then naturally many like you will have apps which will be on Binance chain and natively, but their users would want to trade their assets, let's say on Ethereum, OpenSea, or wherever they want to, right? So like, and the good thing about developers is that they also get a lot of choice, and then support from the ecosystem. Wherever they get the support, they kind of tend to build over there. Wherever they see their target audience is more, they tend to build over there. And then eventually, but if you have cross-chain bridges available, they can actually reap the benefits of various ecosystems, right? So I think that's why interoperability is very important. And we have been like we realized this part very like quite some time back, and we've been working on various interoperability solutions with our partners like Connect networks and things like that. And then we are trying to sort of like help and set up these bridges between, let's say, Matic and Binance chain, Matic and Ethereum, and then Matic and let's say XDAI, whatever chains would be there, right? Even with Polkadot later on, so that the developers have the freedom, and then after that they can choose, right? Like wherever they want to build, and it's not like they are bound that if they choose one particular chain, then they can't reap the benefits of the other chain. So like something like that, like giving the freedom back to the developers instead of like making the walled gardens is the main idea about this interoperability.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I know Seb is not part of the communication, but I see him there in the call. So you also mentioned to me that you would like to have the NFTs on layer 1, but if it would be able to be traded on a layer 2, that would be like the best of both worlds. Is that?
I can jump in on the question, obviously, since I'm here with you, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation. I'm not part of the panelists today. Just I think like this NFT as content, they can have multiple utility which goes beyond the original game, beyond the original intent that the game developers originally minted them for. And that's what we are seeing in the space. There's many users, not just the players interacting with the NFT in the original gameplay. There's users who are here collecting them, trying to trade them on marketplaces, etc. And there's a direct correlation we've been observing when gas fees are spiking, the transaction volume on all marketplaces and the general activities across those marketplaces decrease. So I think a good compromise would be indeed either to have bridges and cross-chain solutions that facilitate those NFT being traded in many places with various other benefits, as well as bringing more users from the ecosystem of those chains, typically, and or for the benefit of the users themselves to have like instant transaction, easier onboarding, etc. So those are some of the things I understand Sandeep has been working on too, Brandon as well with BSwap, and you team as well with the marketplace and wallet solution. So of course, I'd love to hear you tell us and our audience today a little bit more on that along today's conversation, if you can.
Yeah, we will try to avoid the cost of gas fees, but like for the simplicity of the user, who is like paying the gas fees? Is it like the company from the smart contract, the interoperability? How does that work? Maybe Sami, it's been a while since we heard from you.
Yeah, sure. So I think think it really depends on the marketplace and bridges, right? Like some of them may look at how they're going to be charging or within the fees covering cost of the fees of the transaction on both sides. I think it really depends. I think for us, we've identified this could be not an issue, but something that we want to try and support marketplaces and teams with, and project teams with. So we've done a number of things. So one of the initiatives programs that we rolled out is called the Biddle Rewards Program. So in that, basically, so any developers can register their callable smart contracts, and they basically get a rebate on the transaction fees that are going through these contracts. So it's like kind of a different way that they can monetize their customers, potentially, like also, of course, in this case, ideally, they're going to pass on some of this cost savings back to the end users. But of course, that's, I think, different ways that this could be addressed. I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer on this solution. It's really like depends on how marketplaces and project teams building out these bridges kind of think of creative solutions to them. And then, of course, free market choices and users are going to decide which ones they prefer. Obviously, users usually have a tendency to choose the lowest cost options. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Well, for us with our marketplace, what we're concentrating on is the mainstream users, new users coming in, and the ability to really concentrate on game asset and game studio, and then moving on into the gameplay. So we are trying to hide everything that is cryptocurrency related and gas fees related, and that we sponsor that. One of the issues that we have with Ethereum is we just disabled it because since we are sponsoring the gas fee as a marketplace for the buyer and seller, it's impossible to sell the item without burning yourself. But Brandon, I think you are also interested in jumping in on the topic, right?
Oh yeah, I was just going to bring up another analogy. So yeah, the most recent card game that the second release we did on Ethereum for our card game, we ended up about 11% of our revenue went back out in gas fees. So we ended up sponsoring that for the people who actually bought it. So we used the marketplace OpenSea, and we took offers from there, which allowed us to pay the gas fees for the people who are buying. So it was not an elegant solution, but for us, we had the same encounter that you did, where we want people to interact with the game and really have that experience and also the identity without having to have that side of it. So that's why it was so exciting for us to do the launch on Binance Smart Chain, where we had each of the cards was like less than 3 cents USD equivalent for that process. So for us, I think our ideal scenario is to use a layer 2 and layer 1 partners like this to actually perform the sales, so nobody has to pay that and burden that cost, and then use a bridging technology to move it to the context that they need it in order to interact with that part of the game. And that's something we recommend not only just for us, but for also the top tier studios that aren't in crypto now that we're working with, who are interested in maybe adapting an NFT to their existing IP. So.
Great.
And
all right.
One thing, Tim, I also realized that when you were asking like that question that why is interoperability required in multiple chain solutions and NFT existing in multiple chains and all that. Like one other important part is that most of the chains although not all the users really care about it, but most of the chains have their own different trade-offs, right? So for example, like Ethereum is highly decentralized, so if you want to mint NFTs which would let's say cost $10,000 a piece or even more than that, you wouldn't want to kind of mint it on any other chain like except Ethereum, because there you have the complete decentralization, all that. So similar to like that, I think for example, somebody is using Polkadot parachain or something where somebody is in the business of minting millions and millions of NFTs in a matter of days, right? So there you might have that NFT on that particular chain, but let's say you want to preserve it for later time and all that, you might want to move it to some other, like more secure chain or whatever, right? So some of these, like the trade-offs that different chains offer, that also leads to the fragmentation in the, in the kind of developers looking to choose which chain to build on, right? So, and that also will lead to fragmentation of like applications on various chains, and then hence, like, interoperability comes into play for there.
Yeah, I really like that all of you are looking to each other's strengths and supporting the ecosystem as a whole. So that is amazing for to think like that. I think that's also special within the gaming industry. Well, I've been working in different industries before that I rolled into gaming and blockchain, and that's not the mindset that you see very often. But I think it's just about time to jump into more interesting questions from the audience, and Serena has been curating them very well. So Serena, I'm going to give you the floor so that these gentlemen can answer a couple of more difficult questions from them.
Yeah, of course. I think there's a few interesting one that came from the audience. There's one related to 3D models, which I think is quite fascinating. So somebody is asking, most engaging games are in 3D games. Since the most NFTs are images and videos with ownership metadata, can somebody discuss the cross-chain interoperable standards when the NFTs are a 3D model? So I don't know if any of you wants to pick this one up. I see you nodding, Brandon.
So. Oh yeah, so this is actually awesome because we just got off with our studio. So the characters that are in our game, we have about 22 characters now across our properties that are part of our marketing. That also, people are literally have bought and own and love, even though we haven't actually published a lot of the stories yet. So what's great about that is we're currently working with an anime studio who's doing 3D models for our characters. And what we're going to be doing is actually turning those 3D models into NFTs themselves. So they're going to be interactive VR elements of because they're 3D models. Yeah, I'm not sure on the technology specific side, but those character models are going to be there. So what we'll be able to do is sell interesting things like co-branded opportunities together, using those models in a very easy to create short animation. And also include that in sort of a VR experience. So I think there's been a lot of projects like Terra Virtua who are looking into having more interactive experiences like that. So I see that sort of coming together. Let's say within the next 6 to 12 months, we have a cross section of the NFT technology and the assets relating to those being actual NFTs.
Yeah. And one more thing, like I think this question also has two different parts, right? So one is that like the NFTs with the 3D model. So like, of course, like as Brandon mentioned, that there are more and more projects now these days coming up which are looking to do 3D models for NFTs. But in terms of like the cross-chain interoperability standards, so and specifically related to metadata. So see, the metadata related to a particular NFT, can reside in any particular domain. Like as far as like it can be on some any particular chain. But then even when you move the asset, the NFT sort of front ends, the UIs can build it in a way that the metadata still points to the original NFT. So those problems, because at the end you need the NFT ID, for the basically the uniqueness to verify the uniqueness of the NFT, and then metadata can come from the original source. So so it's already happening, and that's not a very big issue for the interoperability. One thing that could be there is that once these decentralized storage solutions like Filecoin and like other solutions like that or RB become more and more popular, and then the metadata can be simply stored, canonically be stored in a immutable database, then I think like these metadata issues will be even more like resolved in a better capacity. Yeah. So those were the two things.
Yes. I think there's another curious question that Chris has asked about procedural generation gaming on the blockchain next. And also somebody else mentioned about CryptoKitties being one of the early projects. Would you like to mention any other project that you know that has a similar approach?
Yeah,
maybe first explain what is procedural. That's the first
I'll
one. I don't know what it is.
I'll let the floor to you to explain.
mentioned, like, I think the question mentioned that by procedural generation they mean that some sort of on-chain breeding concept, right? So that breeding concept, for example, CryptoKitties uses. Another, like, leading project in that space is, I think, Zrun, so where you can breed your horses, right? So those are the kind of generated content, if
Yeah, I think in a broader context, procedural gaming means, like, for example, you enter a level and that level is actually created by an algorithm, so that when you interact, it's actually different every time. So it's done by an algorithm. So yes, the CryptoKitties part is actually the same as well. But that's our on-chain example, where we can have two cats and then make a baby, right? And then that baby is actually done by an algorithm, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunities on this. I'm actually interested in the rest of the panel and maybe some of the other BGA members on an on-chain solution for this, because there's lots of off-chain solutions, some of which we're using for it's, I think the product is called This Anime Is Not Real. And what it is it's basically an AI generated anime character, and there's just there's a million of them. So we've been playing with the idea of having this as our user, like an optional user creation within our marketplace, just for fun, right? So so I'm interested though in how we actually blend that with the NFT technology as well.
Very interesting.
Cool. Thank you so much for answering that.
All right. In the previous argument, we were talking about the different formats, and there are already formats that you can say you can bring this into IPFS, like GLTF, OBJ, and Vox formats. These are already standard, and they're supported in the web. Now, how would you bring that into an NFT?
I can take this one.
You want to take that?
Yeah. So, just my take on it is, so I think a lot of people, at least, so how we're approaching NFT is that the concept isn't to take this type of data and try to stuff it into a chain. Like we don't think that's actually the right concept. So what we want to denote with that NFT is the rights to use that. It's the rights to use that content for something, and then the associated metadata is actually stored, like Sandeep said. It can be in a very crypto-oriented data storage, but it's somewhere else. It's using a product like Crust, it's using a product like Filecoin in order to store the actual data, which can be rather large. So for us, what we want the NFT to be is something that is an item that actually denotes like the user ownership of that.
So in the end, it comes down to the licensing of a single item. And that is the big value of blockchain, and where you can transport that ownership from the game studio, from the creator to the player, to the user that in the end has that in their own inventory, I would say, or in their own market, or in their own home. Is that for you guys the same thing? Is that like the baseline of the value of NFT? Samsung?
Yeah, so I think the NFT itself will be useful in various ways and different domains, right? So at the moment, like, it's really great. I have to say, it's really great that NFTs are finding its moment to shine right now. Especially for people that have had a lot of excitement around there for a number of years, and then now getting increasing adoption from more mainstream areas. I think a number of different factors that have really supported that, right? So if you look at, of course, arts and various others that are being growing really fast right now, but I think there's a number of others that are going to come soon next. So things like in the sports domain, for example, right? So if you look at like how fan engagement and NFTs could be really relevant and useful, and grow with various kinds of experiments happening in that space. I think it's starting to happen today, but there's still a long way to go. And it really comes down to what's the experience of today fans, sports fans, right? Now it's even fewer people than ever that have been able to go and attend in person. So it's really about digital viewership, digital experiences, and how these kind of sports teams and others are really going to be able to engage with these fans in more meaningful ways. So of course, art assets are a key part of that, but as we mentioned, those could live anywhere, right? So you want to prove that a specific art asset is an original, but because it's digital, can be obviously easily copied. But I think what the NFT provides, or the big value, is that you have provably scarce and the ownership of one of those. Anybody can copy as many of them as they want, like a Picasso painting, right? Like somebody can go and like print out a Picasso painting on their printer, but there's not the original one. That's the big difference here. But I think there's also going to be, I think a lot of the innovations that are happening around NFTs in the gaming space will also translate and be useful with applications of NFTs in a number of other areas, not only sports. Could be use cases around luxury goods. We're already seeing some of these things happen, right? Like with around using NFTs as digital twins to prove ownership and authenticity of a physical good. Could be use cases in enterprise and various others.
Chris, that's an interesting question. Is there a protocol for verification of NFTs available?
Yeah,
I know we do it on a marketplace. We do it on a marketplace level, as in we can do it there. But on a protocol level, any of you know about that?
So I would say right now there's probably a good opportunity for developers to build better tools to do this. Because there's, I think some of them there do exist some, but I think like as these use cases evolve and become a little bit more complex, and then we start talking about interoperability and then like native NFTs on a particular chain, and then those NFTs living on another chain and then being used as collateral in a DeFi protocol, and all of these like permutation combinations. I think like being able for let's say users that aren't technical to be able to do this quite easily could be very useful.
Yeah, and I just want to echo that as someone who has 20 fake versions of each of our cards out on various marketplaces right now. If someone can figure out a protocol level, I'm happy to get involved very early with that.
Yeah, on our end, we're thinking about whitelisting it on the marketplace level. So we verify the smart contract. So if you verify the smart contract, and if it represents, we can index that. But yeah, it's then only on our end that we can curate it somewhat, and you can still fall in a trap somewhere else. And that protocol is a very good way of thinking about it. So I would say developers out there, Chris, maybe you're interested in developing it yourself. You just have some good customer validation that everybody would love to have it. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, maybe think of some token curated, voting on a legit, NFT issuer contracts or something like that. That could be a interesting token economy itself. So yeah.
Yeah. Then you can launch it on Matic or on DSC, that token.
Yeah, please ping me.
All right. Maybe we should round off with like a last question, and then we're at the 45-minute mark. So one more question from the audience. I saw one from, I think, who was it here that I said I need to mark it off? Yeah, you're always coming in between. Yeah.
I think this could be a good one to wrap up. If you could describe what teleport is in one sentence. So if all of you want to give us a short description of it, we can go around the virtual room and provide a sentence to define that. Sandeep, do you want to start?
Basically interoperability, teleport interoperability for NFTs. but that is a technical concept. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Sam?
Yeah, I would say it's the ability to move an asset that's natively created on a specific infrastructure or a specific blockchain to another, and then potentially onto another one from that. Right, so it's really giving users and the owners of these NFTs more freedom to be able to move them to wherever they want to house them. Yeah, I would kind of define it that way.
Lovely. And Tim, can you give us a definition of that?
For me, if you say teleport, I think bridge. And so indeed, if it's on Ethereum now, you teleport it or you bridge it to Matic or BSC, but at that point in time, it lives on that chain, and then you can bridge it to another chain. And in the end, overall, there's an index throughout history and time that says how that specific NFT traveled from one chain to the other.
Wonderful, thank you. And Brandon, how would you describe it?
Yeah, so I'd say that it's making NFT not only blockchain agnostic, but blockchain atheist for our users. That's what I heard.
That's a good one. And Seb, can you give us your definition of NFTs teleport?
Well, I think it combines the idea that you can find and use your NFT no matter the wallet or the chain or the dApp at the end of the day. And it should be just so simple to use. You don't even have to worry about the tech, the fees you have to pay to those services, etc. It's just the achievement of the vision of the metaverse becoming true here, thanks to the technology behind.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's what I can come to. Why bridge compared to clone it on each chain in a strategic way, and then your game operates on a non-blockchain level, and that is for me not teleport because it's a cloning. You have different blockchains, and each of them have the NFTs, and depending on the preference of the user, which chain that they are using, that doesn't matter. Really difficult to find that balance, business versus technical.
Mm-hmm. True. Well, it's been very interesting to listen to all of your different perspectives and projects that you guys have been working on. Thank you so much, team, for moderating this incredible panel and for the questions from you and from the audience. I also want to say that this is just the beginning of our NFT teleport discussion. So this has been part 1. Feel free to join us on part 2, which is going to happen on February 5th, same time, Friday, 4 p.m. We're going to be live streaming on YouTube and on our Twitter page as well. So keep following the activities at the Blockchain Game Alliance. Seb, I leave the last word to you. But thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody watching. Thank you for your questions.
Same. Thanks for joining, speaking. Thanks also for the audience today. I see that this has been a very engaging conversation, a lot of questions around. So feel free to continue the conversation after this panel, either on our Discord or Telegram, or reaching out to the speakers. I'm sure there will be a lot more to talk about, and see you next week on our next panel on the topic. Thank you, everyone, and